Hello everyone, I am Jonathan Little here today with Lexy Gavin.
Hello.
How's the World Series treating you?
It's going pretty well so far. I've had 5 cashes, 2 deep runs, so any series that you're not down a lot of money is a win.
You have to give yourself shots. Let's talk today about how to play on the bubble as the short stack.
Yes.
The exact spot you don't necessarily want to be in.
Right.
Unless you can sneak into the money. Let's say we're playing a big field tournament. Let's say it started with 1,000 people. 100 people get in the money. We're down to 105 players.
Okay.
And we have 6 big blinds.
Ugh, that's a terrible feeling. There's no worse feeling. Stall. Take your time.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
At some point, they will go hand for hand. If they go hand for hand, then obviously no stalling. Should we be actively stalling hard in this scenario when we can?
I definitely think so. I mean, you might have a conflicting theory on this, but I think that, when you're that close, it is important to cash. I mean, it's a big swing if you don't cash. So I think that stalling is okay. Take your time. Don't be annoying and excessive about it. You can take your time, think through your decisions. I wouldn't stall for 2 minutes, pre-flop every single time. But I think it's okay to stall. What about you?
Well, on the bubble, you, as a short stack or medium stack, just want the bubble to end. You just want to get in the money, which means you want to play as few hands as possible. You want to be dealt into as few hands as possible. If you could just take a break for 30 minutes and come back, you would.
Right.
So stalling does that. Now, I think stalling's lame, but
For sure.
you have to understand the rules of the game incentivize it. So it is up to the tournament directors, in my opinion, to design a better game. And currently, the bubble portion of a lot of tournaments is not especially fun, and it is very stally/grindy. You got to do what you got to do, and the tough thing about this game is that if nobody else did it and you didn't do it, it'd probably be fine. But the problem is that some people are going to do whatever it makes financial sense for them, and if you know that you make an extra $40 by just sitting there and doing nothing on average, you'll do it, right?
Right.
So if you make money by doing nothing, you should do it. You should do whatever the game incentivizes.
Right.
That's your job. That's your job to make the most amount of equity, and you do that by not playing hands on the bubble. So, mine, we're going to play quite slowly.
Yes.
Maybe even annoyingly so if it makes logical sense.
But I do think that one big leak amongst a lot of recreational players is they really, really want to make that cash, and they'll make some really bad folds pre-flop when you're short. So I've seen people actually fold aces on the bubble when they're short stack because they want to cash so much. So I do think stalling is okay, playing tighter is okay, but if you do have a hand like ace king or kings, even any pair with pocket sixes, I think you need to just go with it because A, you do have more fold equity on the bubble than in most other spots, so you are going to get a lot of folds, and B, when you're so short, you're not guaranteed that you're going to get another good hand, so you are just risking yourself just blinding out and busting the next orbit. So I think that it is important to not make those really nitty folds when you're short, but
Yeah, so you have to realize when you have 6 big blinds on the bubble, unless the average stack is 25 or 30 or 40 big blinds, you're probably not going to win the tournament.
Right.
Most of your equity is going to come from collecting them in cash, as close to 100% of the time as you can. So say you do get a hand like pocket 7s under the gun with your 7 big blind stack, and there are 2 or 3 shallow stacks who are going to be going broke soon and you're going to get in the money, that's probably a fold. You just fold, get out of the way, try to collect your free cash. But if you have something like jacks or queens or ace queen, you probably want to be shoving.
See, I think that with pocket 7s in big blind ante tournaments is more of a shove than I mean, because all of the tournaments in live poker now have basically become big blind ante, so you have to shove a little bit wider in early position because you're about to come into the big blind plus the ante. So I would probably shove pocket 7s.
Well, I mean, all this is hypothetical because it depends on where you actually stand in the tournament. If you are literally last place,
right,
and you need to lose 5 people before you get in the money, 7s is probably a shove. But imagine you have 6 big blinds and then 7 people have 2 big blinds.
Right.
You should definitely fold.
Right.
So it's really important to be aware of where you actually stand, because being short does not mean you're necessarily in a terrible spot.
Right.
Because you could be actually cashing close to 100% of the time in a large field if a decent chunk of the field has fewer chips than you, or if they're just in there battling hard because they don't care about getting in the money. So this is why you can't just pull up a chart and follow the chart in bubble scenarios, even if it is adjusted, because for the pound implications, because you don't know where all the other short stacks are and how they're faring in the tournament, especially in a gigantic field tournament. So
you can actually take a little walk around. I mean, the floor doesn't love it, but you can check, walk around to the other tables and check out who the short stacks are. If you see that there's not very many people with short stacks, then you probably should be shoving a little bit wider. But if you see that there's people with 1 or 2 big blinds, then yeah, you should definitely tighten up.
Yeah, so it's rough to kind of accept the fact that you're probably not going to win this tournament, and that most of my equity is going to come from getting 1.5 buy-ins back, and that's it. But that's very often what you should do. You want to get in the money as close to 100% of the time as you can, while realizing when you are actually pretty likely to be the next one out or not, right? Imagine you're playing a tournament where 15 people get paid, and you're down to 17 people, so 2 have to go broke. But you have 7 big blinds, and the next short stack has 10, and another player has 15. In that scenario, you are going to have to get a double up almost always.
Right.
But if there's 4 people in that tournament with 2 big blinds, you don't. And so you really want to be aware of how likely you are to be the next one out if you play as close to normally.
Right. And I think another important thing is I think a lot of people misconstrue what the bubble actually is. Like, they'll start tightening up way too early, and then that's really bad to do, because then you're just gonna find yourself bleeding a lot of chips, and then you're gonna be even shorter for the bubble. So try and get a feel for what the actual bubble is, and like I said in another video, is if there's a lot of players in the field, then the bubble is going to go a lot quicker than if you're just like in a 100-person field. So try to get a sense of what the actual bubble is, and don't tighten up too early.
Yeah, so what a lot of people do very wrong is they'll have a solid medium stack of, like, let's say 20 big blinds with, let's say, 25% of the field remaining, with 15% getting paid. And they think, I'm just going to hang out, play tight, and get my free cash. But they'll get a cash very frequently, but in exchange, they will almost never have a big stack. And having a big stack in any sort of bubble scenarios where you're going to make a lot of your equity in tournaments. And if you look at a lot of players who just don't win much money or lose a lot of money at poker, people who are doing kind of marginally or poorly, they have a really high cash rate, because this is where they tighten up a lot as a medium stack on the bubble. They end up getting short on the bubble. They cash every time once they get to that point, but they almost never win. And winning is where you make the big bucks.
Yes.
All right, that's me for today.
Yep.
If you're on the bubble with a short stack, I hope you don't bubble. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Run hot. Where can people follow you?
So go over and check out my YouTube channel, Lexy Gavin Poker. I post a lot of hand history review, do some coaching stuff on there, and I show a lot of the lifestyle.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Check it out. Also, click the like and subscribe buttons below. Go to Lexy's channel. Follow her there. Good luck in your games. Have fun. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.